Thanks a lot, Thomas. Nice to hear that this event continues. I started it 9 years ago, or 8 years ago, I think. 2011 was the first one. Yeah. I hope I am. Can you hear me? No? Yeah. Okay, can you hear me better now? Yeah, so it's nice that these continues, these events. Very nice to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me. And as you said, I will discuss a topic, what they call cybersecurity for next generation factory. And this is a background for some new research projects that we recently started at the LTH. So it's work in progress, early work for starting this year. I will give you a little bit background and the issues, security issues we are working with there. Start with describing the two research projects briefly that we are running for the moment. Then I will discuss some technology trends in manufacturing systems in general and how that relates to security. And then discuss the security solution challenges for cloud-based process control. A little bit about digital twins and how we think digital twins actually is could be a vehicle for increased security, not just a concept for better product utilization and more efficient product processes. And then discuss a little bit about protected distributed analytics that we're working with at the university. We have two research projects running for the moment at Lund University. The first one is actually together with the organizer of this workshop, RISE, and SSF, funded by SSF, and it works with secure production unit deployment, management and control, looking at production systems and deployment, secure deployment of production systems, and privacy preserving analytics to optimize production flows, and also started to work with the prototyping based on ABB systems, and it's also in cooperation with ABB and Tetra Pak and another Swedish company working with production system called AMS in Halmstad. And the second project we're running is an EU project, H2020. There are many EU projects in the area of Industry 4.0 that this belongs to. And this one is called Cloud Facturing that we have been running for 1 year. And that's working with a platform, a cloud platform for allowing to run production simulations in cloud resources and high computing centers, and to intermediate that to make it easier for small companies to utilize cloud resources, and to let also different players that can offer advanced simulation services for these kind of companies to cooperate in a common platform. And we're running experiments there from real production examples, and it's organized in such a way that we run in 3 waves. So each year there's a call for new proposals where new partners can come and try this new platform that we develop, and they get some financing from EU as well for running these experiments to test the new solutions. And we have run it for 2 waves now, but there will be another wave this summer that you actually can apply for money to taking part in this. You can get more information there if you would like to see. So if we look into manufacturing systems in general, what are the general technology trends we can observe there right now? There was recently listed by General Electric 5 major technology trends in this area. And one trend is affecting these areas and many other IT and technology areas is cloud computing, and especially cloud computing with edge infrastructures for getting the production system more efficiently. That's a clear trend. Since the system are getting more open, interconnected, the need for cybersecurity is increasing, and there are lots of interest and a lot of works ongoing, both standardization-wise and otherwise, to increase security in these kind of systems. There's a move toward more standardized systems because the systems want to open up, so new standards are occurring and are deployed in this system. And there is a merge between the virtual and digital world, what's called digital twin. This is a very hot topic in the area for the moment. And then as well, distributed analytics with data from industrial IoT units. That's a 5th area. And I'm going to talk a little about these and how they relate to security. One can take, when it comes to respect to cloud computing, one can take a different view of it, or actually how cloud computing will affect the production systems. There is a clear trend, as you see also from the General Electric have identified, to move functionality from the classical production system out to cloud resources. And this happening, if you look to the classical areas in 3 different levels, you can say. Well, first wave that is already happening and where we see a lot of movement is to move the business systems and enterprise systems to cloud resources. That's a quite natural and direct move that is not so hard to do. The next level is also ongoing partly, is to move the supervisory control and data acquisition, the SCADA level, to cloud-based resources. And the last, that's the most difficult due to real-time constraint, is of course to move control and field level, where you have actually direct control of processes to cloud-based systems. And there is, we're more talking about local and edge type of clouds in order to facilitate that. Another way of look upon this is to take a traditional view of a production system, where you have different level. You have the business level, you have the SCADA level, and also where you have logging and so on, and then the control level, and down the edge you have the PLCs and the actual things that control a production process or what it could be. And this is the traditional view you have of production systems. And what we see now is that you move the business control to cloud-based resources like in many other systems, and that is rather easy move to do. In the next step, one can see that you actually move the second level, the supervision network, the logging function and so on to cloud-based resources. And the final step, you move the complete SCADA and even maybe the control of the PLCs to cloud type of system. There are we not now, there is where we are right now, and in the end we can see a move here. And that also makes it possible to have more close direct interactions between these different systems, so they are not closed or isolated as they were before. And another common way to look upon this is what you have the classical ISA view of industrial control systems, where you go down from process level to second level, sensing and manipulating, and then monitoring, supervising, and then operations, and finally the business logic planning. And these are blurred up now, and what came up from the initiative in Germany some years ago is what's called the reference architecture reference architecture model for Industry 4.0. And there instead are discussing layering, trying to blur up this old type of way of looking upon it. And then instead you have 2 levels, horizontal and vertical level, and then you put the old ISA 95 level on the bottom horizontal level, and on the vertical level you put the business layer instead. And then you also have a third view, and that is actually the life cycle view of both the manufacturing processes and what are manufactured, actually the actual products. Because the products are also getting connected. It's not only that you are connecting the whole flow for a production system, but also the actual final product is now taking in to the model as well, giving new lot of possibility and interesting possibilities for more efficient production system. So what does this mean from security? Of course, there is a lot of challenges when you start to blur up things like that. And this is just a movement that is starting and is ongoing now in the industry. And there's also a lot of research efforts working into this and looking into different models. The main threats when it comes to the business level is, of course, that illegal access to manufacturing resources, manufacturing data. There is risk from business information leakage and malware causing business damage. That we also have seen in several examples of attacks on these kind of systems that have come through the last 10 years. And especially when we merge different type of old system into new systems and interconnect them, there is a need, of course, to align authentication principles, have more advanced authorization models to allow different stakeholders to access information in a controlled way, and then still provide backward compatibility. And that's, of course, a major challenge. And one effort in this way, but not looking to the complete RAMI 4.0 Industry 4.0 model, but just taking part of it, is the effort we are doing in the Cloud Facturing Platform. And there we're looking to the business level, and then to some extent also to the data analysis level of manufacturing data. And what we have built and are building right now is a new platform that allows for simulation of production flows in cloud resources, and where small companies not having access to advanced computing resources can use third-party provider software for these kind of simulations and testing of production software in a shared using high-performance computing resources and cloud resources, and get access to the simulation and testing through a common platform. There you can execute workflows and so on. And then we're also planning and just about to add more advanced analytics to optimize the production flow with the help of this platform. And what we are developing there, together with the University of Westminster here, is the authorization module and authentication model, allowing a common entry point for everyone to only register once and then still be able to access all the parts of the platform and also implement advanced policies, because what information you should be allowed to access depends on the role and what you have paid for, of course. And then also you need to make sure that business secrets are not leaked between actors in these common platforms. There is need for a more advanced policy framework, authorization framework, and policy enforcement. And that's what we're developing with this central user management model. When it comes to the SCADA level security, there are many examples. There was a big attack on a German steel factory 4 years ago. Denial of service attacks, illegal manipulation could have severe business consequences we have already seen in these attacks. There was another example from this MIT talk this morning. And a challenge here is, of course, key management. It's verification of software and hardware. It's also interoperability and standardization, and it's a complex of system that is a large risk as such. And what we see happening there in the standardization community, there is, for instance, the Industrial IoT Consortium in US that have come far. They released a new standard some years ago. And what they are doing, in principle, are adopting the well-known standards we have in IT and communication systems since many years back, and make profiles or meta standards for the industry area. And they have come up with a model where you have 4 basic tiers that pass on all modern IT security systems, where they distinguish between security configuration and management, security monitoring and analysis, communication and connectivity, and then endpoint protection. And there are profiles and recommendations for all these layers in the system. And then if you look further down, for instance, into the endpoint security, you find things that you're familiar if you have been working with platform security and in the past. And what we have seen there is root of trust, that the trusted computing boot have come up to, because techniques, that means techniques to secure and verify how an endpoint is actually configured from integrity point of view. It means that it's run the correct software and so on. How you install the root secrets. It's the identity of the endpoints and identity frameworks, building on well-known standards in that area, ranging from OpenID to Radius type of systems. And then there are physical security of the systems, what kind of hardware security models are integrated into the endpoint and so on, and recommendations and so on. So it's really about moving well-established security technologies to an area where systems before have been very closed and now need to adapt to all the consequences it means to have an open system, an interconnected system. Another area is the communication, connectivity protection, and similarly there it's adoption of well-known techniques and recommendations. The final and toughest level is where we don't have seen so much happen yet, and that's the actual control level. There you have the real-time requirements. There real-time disturbances can have fatal consequences. You can have loss of software and hardware, and you can have loss of manufacturing data that could be very severe. Also here you need efficient ways for key management, you need protection and isolation between edge clouds, and you need combination of access control and computation security, and security resource constraint sensors. This area is a lot of ideas on research level and some trials, but not so much happening if you see on the real deployed systems yet. This was just to give an overview of the problem area and some trends there are. If you would like to read more, there is a good overview by Jaakko Delsing from Luleå. They wrote some years ago that discussed the problem of local cloud and Internet of Things automation. I would recommend you to read the standards document from Industry 4.0 that also includes the security recommendations from them. And then the reference architecture coming from the US counterpart initiative, the Industrial IoT initiative, that they also have from 2 years ago this security framework released with recommendations and a pointer to existing security standards. Saying that was background more. I was that's what we are two concepts. Moved over to two concepts that we are working with. Another one of the trends here that was challenging thing when you look to opening up systems like old systems like industry process control systems is that it's a lot of legacy system in these kinds, and it means that there cannot be a fast move. But also when you open up and use cloud-based resources, control industry processes and so on. One good opportunity there is, as I've discussed before, is to optimize production flows, but also optimize the management of products from a life cycle perspective. It means that you can keep track of a product not only when it's produced, but also when it's used in the end system in the end, and connect that for maintenance purposes and detect flaws and so on. And in a way, trying move into this direction, the concept of digital twins have come up the recent years. What is a digital twin? That is a concept where you use a digital copy of your product or your production systems in a virtual or cloud-based environment. It means it has the same state, it has the same information as a real product, but it exists in the background. It means that you can perform analysis of the behavior of the end product in a virtual environment and not on the real environment, and test things, and then making it possible to interact with other services. And what does that mean from a security point of view? There are many security advantages with such a concept, because the major challenge when you start to open up interfaces to sensitive functionality such as production system is of course the risk of denial of service, risk of that you open up not of new interfaces that are open to attacks. It's also make it very hard to make sure security policies and so on are followed. And one way of tackling this is to not make direct interactions with the final real physical product, but do the interactions with the virtual counterpart instead. And how is that done then in practice? That is then done such a way that you, instead of interacting with a physical product directly with your outer systems, such as business system, product ordering systems, or maintenance systems, you interact from the outside with your digital counterpart. And the digital counterpart and the physical counterpart instead execute the synchronization protocol. So you keep them in sync. You cannot have real-time behavior between these two components in that sense, but you can have close to real-time behavior depending on how fast you do the synchronizations. And then you need, of course, a model in the virtual world of the physical product. And that model can be complex, corresponding all state information, all aspects of a physical thing, or it can be more lightweight model, depending on your need and the type of interactions you need with the final product. And from a security perspective, there are many advantages with such concept compared to allowing interfaces that directly interact with the physical component. One main advantage is that a well-known fact when you deploy a large complex system like industrial production control or products is that you need to configure on security, so you have security associations with all the other parts. You can make proper authentication, can make proper authorization rules and so on. If you instead, you also need to put safeguard that the right software is running on them and that you have the correct network isolations and so on in order to limit the denial of service attacks and so on. When you instead use a digital twin concept, the need for the physical device that is often also maybe resource constrained, could be a sensor, could be an actuator and so on, is that that one is only need to be configured to have secure interaction with its digital twin counterpart and no other external interactions. And that's a huge advantage from a security perspective, because then you can, the surfaces that you expose this unit for is much more limited. And then on the back end system, instead, you can deploy, have much more power typically, can put much more advanced security countermeasures in terms of firewalls, in terms of software analysis and so on. So the protection level become much higher. It means a simple configuration for the end device, and then advanced security services for the digital twin counterpart. And then depending on your needs, you could make a very simple model of your end device. Depending on if it's advanced interactions needed, you need, of course, an advanced model corresponding to all the state information. But if you have just loosely interaction with these one, kind of quite simple model describing the data, the state information, some simple data object exchange with that one, and command queue, for instance. And that's all you do in your mirror machine or digital twin counterpart. And then execution with an interaction with the digital twin can happen directly, depending if it's dependent on any real-time or direct operations, or it's just state information operations. And even you can get responses for commands directly from the virtual counterpart and not from the real counterpart. And this is a concept that we're currently working on. We're developing looking at different models for how you can model sensors and actuators, from very simple models to more complex models, and also how you can put the synchronization protocol as efficient as possible, and depending on the real-time needs of the system. And as I said, the main advantage here is a much higher level of protection and only need for a single security relation. These are the main advantages with such a concept. And if you would like to read more about the digital twins, there is a nice overview from 2014 by RISE. And the IoT protection through synchronization protocol, I published a small paper 2 years ago. You can look into if you want to have more information. The last thing I would like to discuss here is analytics in production systems. We heard that also in the beginning. Another good important opportunity is both to optimize production flows, but also to productionize business flows and productions orders and so on. One need to do advanced analytics operations on both productions and products. And that typically happens in a back-end cloud. And if you do so, you need to send information out from production system sensors, but also from the products itself, back to the backend system where you will do the analytics processing. And from privacy perspective, this could be problematic because the cloud resources are often third-party resources. They are exposed, and you need to send this information out. There are two privacy aspects that one need to take into account in such a scenario. One thing is of course, that no information from the units itself are leaked when they are transferred or when they are stored in third-party resources. But then also identity information from the units should not be exposed, because from the pure identity information from the sensors and actuators and so on, you could get information about business secrets. So ideally, there should be also an anonymity or privacy aspect so that identities are not visible on when you send back data for analytics purposes into backends. And I will not go into the details here, but one example could be car manufacturing systems, where you would like to track the ECUs that you have produced from the starting point you produce them, but also when they're out in the field and you would like to do analytics operations on them. Then you would like to feed back the analytics into the backend cloud, where you can do the analytics calculations. And as I said, I will not go through those requirements, but we have come up with an architecture for this and a solution that we are working with currently. And the principles there is that we launch we assume the analytics operations are done in backend in protected enclaves. What type of enclaves you can use? That could be different ones. Currently, we were looking to virtual machine-based and SGX-based enclaves in the backend, where you actually run the analytics operations untouched. And then you have also database manager that also running in secure enclaves, working on the analytics data. And then we're looking to just for the moment to the process from sending from the sensors back to the cloud resources where the data is subject for analytics, and how to do that in a privacy preserving way. And what we also would like to have with this is that you should not have any dependencies to have secure sessions between the sensors and actuators, but you can have any intermediate storage and buffering, so there should not be any need for a session interaction with the backend storage. And the natural thing to do then is to use object security. That's what you're also doing. We look into object security formats, and then look into object security formats that is privacy preserving, in the sense that the identities are not visible on any interface or during storage on the third-party resources. And this is just an overview of the format of the object security protected items. You have a header, and then you have a first level of protection that you divide all the sensors and actuators into groups, and each group have a first level of encryption, and the group identity is visible on the internal interface. And then on the second level of encryption, you have a second identity, and that is protected through the first identity. And it means that the only visible identity on the outside of each data object is the identity of the group the sensor belongs to, and then you can divide groups in larger and bigger size in order for the need of anonymity you need. And then the final identity of the unit is only visible on the next level, and that we even put a random encryption level protection to not make it direct if you break the outer level encryption to see which identity it is. So it's really about providing object security together with identity protection on two levels. And that gives end-to-end security. It gives full identity privacy between privacy groups, and the attacker effort will depend on the privacy for within a privacy group. And its storage, it gives, of course, confidentiality, and it's storage agnostic. It means that you can send these data items with whatever channels you like. And it can be adapted to different secure container models. This is what we're developing for the moment. First prototype system is under development, and then we will combine it with a secure synchronization approach for full realization of a digital twin concept. And then we will also integrate it into the Cloud Facturing Platform just described for you. And we will also integrate it to the demonstrator that we're developing as part of the SSF project, SEC for Factory. So this concludes my talk. We can say that the movement towards the Industry 4.0 vision is ongoing, or under industrial IoT, but not with particular high speed. Most of the things is about engineering, traditional security engineering, adopting normal standards and standardization efforts, and good security practices in order to achieve these models. I also would like to point out that the digital twin concepts that have arisen is actually a possibility for more secure interactions with both products, entities, and products. And the protected analytics is a challenging topic, but I think there is also a call for new solutions, that the one we are working with, for instance. Thank you.